Okay, section 8.7 is the difference of squares, mostly. Before moving on, you need to do a quick self-check. And if the steps I use to factor this problem still confuse you, that means that you have not really mastered the factoring process, which means until you master the factoring process, the rest of this information is no good to you. So if what I'm about to do seems to be confusing, I suggest you go back, master the other stuff. I mean, you can finish watching the video, but it's not really going to help because I am assuming you have gone through this enough to understand the process. First off, to know that we want numbers that multiply to be -30 and add to be -1. That those numbers are 5 and 6 with a -6 and a +5. That once we get those numbers, we put 10x squared plus 5x minus 6x minus 3. That we then split up the middle, pull off 5x. We are left with 2x plus 1 there. Copy the negative, pull off 3, and we're left again with 2x plus 1. Leave our 2x plus 1 and end up with 5x minus 3. Again, that is the factoring process. Step 1, translate the combination. Step 2, solve it. Step 3, split. Step 4, finish the factoring problem, and that's it. So again, if you are okay with that, maybe not as fast as what I said, but you at least understand what I did, then feel free to keep going. Today we're going to look at 2 tricks that must be considered when factoring. They're really not tricks. They're actually very important things to consider. The first should be considered as the very first step. And yes, I did not teach this first because, you know, it really kind of confuses stuff whenever you take it that far. But now that we know how to factor, let's do it right. So put in front of everything that you must check for a GCF. So when we do that and we look at 6x squared, 20x, and 16, the number I can take out of all 3 of these is 2. And it becomes 3x squared minus 10x plus 8. Based off of that, focusing only on this, we're looking for numbers that multiply to be 24 and add to be -10. Again, I'm not going to go through the process, but knowing that those numbers are 4 and 6, the bigger number must be negative. The signs are the same. There's your numbers. Okay. From there, we will split and get, and I'm just going to ignore the 2 for a moment and put 3x squared minus 4x minus 6x plus 8. I'm going to split here, pulling off an x, being left with 3x minus 4. Copy the minus, pull out a 2. Again, don't worry so much about being as fast as I am, but just make sure you understand this process. But again, that should be kind of known by the time you get here. 3x minus 4 is what I pull off here, x minus 2, and don't forget that 2 is in front. So the actual factors of this is 2 times 3x minus 4 times x minus 2. The thing you have to remember, again, make this note, put this somewhere in your notes right now. You must GCF first. So the first thing you should do before you do anything is look and say, is there anything I can pull out of all 3 terms? If so, you have to. And the funny thing is, it took me a long time to realize that I had done it wrong, even after I was teaching, until I went to an ACT course and picked the wrong answer because I didn't do GCF. So if we don't do GCF, we are looking for numbers that multiply to be 96 and add to be -20. I don't know what those numbers are, so I'm just going to go through. Here's the thing. When I know it makes 96, I know the signs are going to be the same, which means I'm going to add. So I'm looking for 2 numbers I use that make 20. So 96 divided by 4, let's just start there. 4 and 26 don't make 20 unless I subtract. 96 divided by 8. Look at that. 8 and 12 make 20. Therefore, those are my numbers. -12, signs are the same. There you go. And so I would split this to be 6x squared minus 8x minus 12x plus 16. Split down the middle. Out of this, I can take a 2x off, being left with 3x minus 4. Copy the minus. Out of here, I can pull off a 4, being left with 3x minus 4. Pull off your 3x minus 4. Leave your 2x minus 4. And that is what we think our answer is. But again, looking back, it's the same problem, but there's 2 different answers. And the difference between those 2 answers, if you look carefully, is that this has a 2 in it. There's a 2. And that if I pull that 2 out, I'll be left with x minus 2, which is what's right there. So again, yes, you'll be able to factor it, but this is wrong because you can still factor. Now, if you, instead of making GCF your first thing you check, as long as you are very, very consistent looking at your factors and making sure you can't pull a 2 out, because again, if I pull a 2 out, I put it in front, I copy my 3x minus 4 and I turn this into x minus 2. That is correct, but again, you don't want to make that mistake, and so it's much safer just to make sure you start practicing right now, pulling out the GCF first and then dealing with everything else afterwards. The second trick is one you've seen introduced already, but again, it's just one of the factoring problems. I have a 0 value for b. These are officially called difference of squares. So let's work this out the real way first. Looking for numbers that multiply to be negative 100 and add to be 0 because there's no x. Those numbers are 10 and 10 with a positive and negative, because again, if it's no sign, of course, it's positive 10, negative 10. So I can split that to be 4x squared plus 10x minus 10x minus 25. I split it, I take out a 2, and I'm sorry, a 2x, and I'm left with 2x plus 5. Copy the sign, I take out a 5, and I'm left with 2x plus 5, and in the end, 2x plus 5 and 2x minus 5 is my answer. But let's look carefully at this. Same number, different sign. We kind of talked about this when we were doing our multiplication. So what you need to consider is 2 times 2 is 4, the square root of 4 is 2, the square root of 25 is 5. We actually could have done this a lot faster. We could have just simply said that this square root, as long as it's a minus sign, we could say that that would be 2 times 2, x times x. That would be 5 times 5, and then we just put 2x plus 5, 2x minus 5. All right? You don't have to do it that way, but that's what you probably want to practice. For example, when you see this, the first thing you should think is it's 2 terms, no middle term, and it's a minus. So think to yourself, is there a number multiplies by itself to make 49? Yep, 7. X times x makes x squared. Is there a number that makes 36? 6. And once you get that, simply remember the pattern. 7x plus 6, 7x minus 6. That is all. Now again, you can feel free to look for numbers that multiply to be 1,764 and add to be 0. That's fine. But I think it's much nicer to do it this way because, again, it saves you from all those big numbers. All right. 27x, 192. Well, here's the thing. There's no number that multiplies by itself to be 27. There's no number that multiplies by itself to be 192. But what we forget about our first trick is we're supposed to look to see if there's something we can take out of both of these. And the only number I know that goes into 27 would be a number like 3. So let's check to see if 192 divides by 3. And it does. So therefore, it would be 3 times 9x squared minus 64. Once I do that, this, again, looks like a difference of squares. So 9 is 3 squared, x squared is 3x, 64 is 8. So leave your 3 up front, and then you'll have 3x plus 8 and 3x minus 8. That is it. All right. So again, this is a topic that you could easily do, get taken care of before whatever's going on. But like I said, just make sure that you practice this. Make sure you ask questions on things that you're stuck on so that I can help you get on track. Just remember, do GCF first. Check for GCF first. All right. Take it easy and good luck.